Welcome to our new unit on relations and functions. So today we're going to work on lesson 1, which is the introduction to relations and functions, and we'll complete page 1 and 2. A blank is a set of ordered pairs. Relations can be represented as a table and a graph. So we're going to start that out. Kind of gave us the answer, the second sentence, and this is called a relation. And that would make sense. If we look at ordered pairs, they are related. They are kind of hooked together as a unit to make one point. So there's a relationship there. So it can be any set of ordered pairs. They can be random. And relations can also be represented as a table or a graph. Okay, so here they show us the ordered pairs. They also show them as tables. You can see these two match. If we had to talk about this point, we would name the coordinate as -2, +3. So let's move on to the next part. And before we do, we are going to get to our goal. And our goal is I can list the domain and range given ordered pairs, tables, and graphs. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So the domain of a relationship is the set of all of the x coordinates. And the range is the set of all the y coordinates. And you're going to notice they said the set in each one of them. And by set, they mean all of them that are listed or given to us. So if you look at the first example, the ordered pairs, they list every one of these as domains. So we call that a set of all the x values, and the range is the set of all the y values. Now you probably recall recently when we did mean, median, mode, and range, we've used this word before, but it has a different meaning. So I would say based on the context, if you're working with functions, it would mean that's the set of all the y coordinates, but if we're working with data and statistics such as mean, median, mode, they'd probably be talking about the difference between the highest and lowest. So you'll have to approach that based on what you're given. So let's work with this domain and this range. It asks us to state the domain and range of the relation that's given for each one of these examples. If a term in either appears more than once, only write it one time. So we'll see that in these examples. So for letter A, we're given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ordered pairs, and we're asked to list the domain. The domain is all of the x values. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it to make it a little bit easier for me to see, and you can do that at home on your paper as well. So I'm going to list -4, 3, 2, -1, 6, and 9. And you may have noticed this little notation here. This is called a brace, okay? The braces, when we're listing sets, we use those. So instead of parentheses, it's just kind of saying that this is a group of something. This group is related, called the domain. So we're going to start now, and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to look at the range. So again, I think it's easier if we highlight it. I'm going to highlight all of the y values because the range has to do with the y values and the domain has to do with the x values. So we're going to list that now. I'm going to start starting with a brace, and I'm going to list 7, 8, -9, 5, 3, and -2. So that is the set of the range, and nothing was repeated, so we listed every single member, and it matches. I have 6 domain members and 6 range members listed. So please pause this video and try B based on what we did on letter A. When you're ready, replay the video. And for this second set, our domain, we have 5 members listed that were all different, and here we have 5 members that were listed that were all different. So let's start with our domain members for the list that's generated in C. 6, 0, -7, 2, and 3. So let's write those. Let's enclose those in a brace. And now let's go on and go to the range members. So let's highlight the range members. You may be noticing something, and they're all the same number. So what was written up at the top? It said, if a term appears more than once, only write it one time. So we would just write 5. And we would still enclose it in a brace. And what this tells us is that we have, if I look and see that I have 5 domain members right here, and I only have 1 range number, it means that that range number goes with every single member of the domain. All right, let's continue. And we're on to page 2. So this says state the domain and range represented in the following tables and graphs. And tables are so much easier to work with because the domain and range members are all gathered up for us. So let's list the domain. And it's already organized for us. We can see that there's nothing that repeats, so we're going to write down every member of the domain. And enclose it in that brace. You can tell that's not my favorite symbol to make. I'm not as skilled as that one. We're next going to go to our range members again, and because it's organized, we can just go right down and we can see that there are no repeats. So we're going to list 8, 5, 3, and 0. And then we're going to put braces on them. So those are the domain members. Now let's look at the next one. You can clearly see that we have in the range, we have a repeating value. So when we go to do the range, we're just going to write that one number. We only have to write it once, and we're going to enclose it in the braces, so we're saying that that is a set. And then if you look at the x values, it may look like something's repeating, but this 5 is negative and this 5 is positive. So we want to list all the members of the domain. And the last table, you may have noticed again that we have something repeats. We see an 8 and we have a 1, but we see it again. So we're just going to list the 8 once, and we're going to list the 1 once, saying that they're members. We don't have to necessarily say how many members. We're just saying what the members are of the domain. And then let's check out the range, and it looks like, again, it almost looks like repeats, but the -1 is different from +1, and same with -8 is different from +8. So we're going to write all of those members. All right, so our final example is a graph. And this one just takes a little bit more work. It's not terrible to do, but we certainly have to identify points first. So we're going to go to our graph, and we're going to identify where points are that are on grid marks of this line. So for instance, right here would be an in-between, and so we're going to make it clear to ourselves what the ordered pairs are. So I can see that our graphed line crosses a grid mark here, and I can see a pattern happening. So I would probably think it'd be best to go ahead and write them as ordered pairs, but you do not necessarily have to do this. I see 1, remember we always do the x first, comma, 20, and then the next ordered pair is 2, 40. The next ordered pair is 3, and 60 for the y, and you can probably already see a pattern happening. All right, so as we look at this, now we can just go right straight up and look at the domain, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that made it easy on us. And if we look at the range, well, that has a nice pattern too, 20, 40, 60, 80, and 100. So this is how you find them on a graph. We've also talked about a table, and then we've also talked about ordered pairs. There's one more way that relations can be represented. It's called mapping, and we'll talk about that in our second lesson. Thanks so much, and tomorrow I'm going to ask you to work on a paper similar to this independently. Thank you.